And then I want to also make something clear. I showed you a little bit of hindquarter yielding like she just did. I kind of took up on her reins a little bit to restrict the forward movement. And I'll do it on this side. And tap with my spur just a little. And I have bumper spurs. And I get her to move one step. Okay, that's one kind of hindquarter yielding. The example of where I might need that is, let's say if I'm going through an obstacle and I just need Sunny to give me one step like that. I don't need her to cross her legs under her. I just need her to move those hindquarters over one step like that. Now, if I want to do the kind of hindquarter yielding that's going to help her in bending, it's going to help her in learning, you know, lead control signals and things like that in the future, I want to bend her head around, do her hindquarters until I get across under like that. And yeah, I want to, you know, make sure that she's giving me that crossover. Whoa. And then when you're first teaching it, the minute you get 2 steps is you release. But she already knows that exercise, so that's why I go further on her. I can take Sunny and I can yield her and get her stepping under her hindquarters all the way around. Okay, and that's a little different than, say, if I'm side passing up to a mailbox and I just need one more little step to get me that much closer. Do this at the standstill first, because more than bending at the pole and lifting the shoulders and tucking the chin for collection and riding, this is actually teaching her to yield to the bit. If you teach her to yield to the bit, then you'll have a much easier time collecting her. And so that's what I do with my horses. I teach them to yield to the bit, and I do that by, you know, sliding my hand down, and then my other hand I bring it to my thigh, okay, and then I bring it to the other thigh. Now she's fighting me on this now because she only learned vertical flexion on a shanked bit, so I've got to teach her. And there, the minute that they soften, and you can feel it, you know, you can feel it when they soften. The minute that they soften and they're no longer struggling and pulling against the bit and shoving their face into it and letting all of their energy pass through their body. See, that was a bend, but that wasn't a yield. So that's how people force their horses into frames. They get the bends, but they don't get the yields. So now that she's not doing it, I'm gonna brace my hands and pull them back a little harder, keeping my elbows at my sides. And although it may seem like there, now that was soft. I don't know if y'all saw that, but she began to move her head down away from the bit, and the instant that she did, I released the rein. But once you get that yielding to the bit, okay, you can begin to walk in it. Now that she's yielded, I'm just going to take 1 or 2 steps, and I'm going to wait until she softens. I'm going to do this until she softens. She's still pretty hard, so I've got my hands pulled in, and I want her to soften right there. And then I'm going to yield by giving her the reins. So I'm only going to ask for a couple steps. She's pushing against the bit, but she's not softening to the bit right now. There. And you want to be sure to release it just as soon as she gets soft. Now you can practice that going around the arena or walking at freedom wherever you want to in the arena, but practicing it around the sides will be good in practicing straightness at the same time. Another thing that you can do that is going to prepare the horse for transitions, and it's going to prepare the horse for leads. It's going to help the horse with the whoa. It's very similar to the one rein stop, and that's called yield to the stop. But what you do is you do a one rein stop combined with a hindquarters yield. And now yield the hindquarters. Okay? And when you pull your leg off, you want to 2 or 3 steps and pull your leg off, and that means whoa. And that's yielding to a stop. Combining the one rein stop with the hindquarters, yielding. So we'll do it from the other side. One rein stop, ask for the hindquarters, 2 steps, release. Okay, this is a really great exercise. Yield to a stop, hindquarters yield, and release. So start out with just 2 steps there. Another exercise that you can do is bending at the arc, and you do that. You can't do this until you have some lateral flexion. You pull them in for the lateral flexion and tap them at the side at the same time. Every time you pull, you tap with your spur. Pull, tap with your spur. Now this is a forward motion, and so you don't want them to stand still like we did in the hindquarters yield. You want them to keep moving forward. Pull, spur, pull, spur, pull, spur. You can use bumper spurs or you can use very mild spurs, but the spurs will help you get that extra bend, which is going to be extremely helpful for your horse. You can roll it or just tap it, as long as you get a response from your horse. All this is making Sunny more bendable, more relaxed, more flexible, and more responsive. And it also helps the vertical flexion, because lateral flexion is the key to vertical. Another thing you can do is serpentines. Keep your hands low. Do it all over the arena. Everything doesn't have to be even. It can be kind of like a snake, just going wherever the snake wants to go. Now I'm going to do all of these at second gear. For some of you with great gaited horses, that may mean a gait. For a pacey horse that you're trying to get to gait on a loose rein, it's probably at this point still going to be a pace. What I'm going to do first is I'm going to put them all together, okay? I'm going to start out with bending to the inside, and I'm going to pick up the speed and do it in gear 2. Let her take a couple steps out of it, and then yield to a stop. go up the other way. Yield to a stop. See that? I don't know if I got out of range, but basically at every gait you go out gaiting, and then you start your circle, and you yield to a stop, and you can begin transitioning out of the circles, and you can begin transitioning out of the stop. But before you can do that, you've got to teach putting them together. And there's also shoulder bending, and we'll do some of that later. Got the walk. Transition into my gait. Yield the hind quarters. Yield to a stop. Serpentine. Do some bending and transition to a canter. So you can also transition to the canter out of that, which will lead to you being able to transition out of a dead stop eventually. Yield to a stop. Yield the hindquarters. Whoa. Good girl. So there's 3. You've got the yielding to a stop. Actually 4. Yielding of the hindquarters. Yielding of the hindquarters. Yielding to a stop. Bending at the arc, where you're going to use the inside leg to tell her to bend. And make that stay forward. It's important that they keep moving forward. So if you have to have a bigger circle to get the forward motion, that's more important. And then serpentines. And then you can begin doing transitions out of that bending in to the arc out of every gait. Okay, so you can transition out of the walk into the canter, out of the walk into the gait, Out of the gait into the canter. You can even do out of the gait into the walk.